It's the Monday edition of College Football Live. I'm Matt Chick along with Greg McElroy and Joey Galloway. Oh, it's a big week. Early signing period begins on Wednesday. It's the time of year where states are in the battle, those in-state battles for recruits. But in the state of Florida, there's an in-state battle for scheduling. Florida wants a 2-for-1 with UCF. UCF says, no, we want a home at home, maybe a neutral site. Gators head coach Dan Mullen says you should take the deal.
We have all those discussions. And I think he said, UCF, like we did with USF, they're in that league. If you're a non-Power 5 school, I have no problem. I'd love, but they want to, I think we offered them a 2-for-1, like we do with most schools in their position, which I think is actually really a good deal. That, they'd have the opportunity to have an SEC school play at their place. It would potentially be a big deal for them. I know I've done it that way when I was Mississippi State. We did it, played some 2-for-1s. Scott brought it up to them. If they want to try to toughen their schedule, that'd be great. It'd be a good opportunity for them, I think, if they wanted to take it.
Well, in emails obtained by the Orlando Sentinel, it's clear there's a difference of opinion between the two athletic directors. After Danny White asked for at home, a neutral site game, Scott Strickland, the AD at Florida, said UF isn't in the market for home at home or a neutral site game against non-autonomy 5 opponents. However, we would be open to a series similar to what we've agreed to with USF, 2 games in Gainesville and 1 in Orlando. Danny White, the athletic director at UCF, responded in kind on email saying, I think that our team has shown on the field that we are far from a typical non-autonomy 5 opponent. Requiring non-autonomy 5 schools to have to settle for inequitable scheduling seems like an unfair business practice and something we should all address at a high level. If this type of scheduling is what is required for teams like UCF to make the Final Four of the CFP, we must consider expansion of the playoff to include non-autonomy 5 schools so we avoid the system operating like a monopoly. I am open to playing anyone in the country, but shouldn't have to put my team at a severe disadvantage by being forced to play 2-for-1s or guaranteed games. Well, that's a lot of words, a lot of typing, and a lot of reading. GMAC, you start us off. Who's in the right, UCF or Florida?
Florida, because right now UCF has absolutely no leverage against Florida. Right now, the non-autonomous 5, the group of 5 as we more commonly declare it, they don't have any leverage. Like, why would Florida go for a 1-for-1 with UCF to provide UCF a very fair advantage? Heck no. UCF needs Florida more than Florida needs UCF. UCF's trying to get on the same playing field as the big boys. They're trying to find equitable aspects of their schedule, but they can't do it by playing in the American. So, unfortunately, they're going to have to do some things that just aren't fair. So you look at Boise State. Boise State is the gold standard of the group of 5, right? We've seen them go to Athens. We've seen them play neutral site games against Virginia Tech in Landover, Maryland. Like, sometimes you have to do things that you're not comfortable with in order to gain respectability. So I totally applaud UCF for trying to get these games scheduled, but UF is the one that clearly has the leverage.
I agree with you, and this is a chance for UCF to make a statement. And if the statement has been, we're as good as anyone else in the country, and you'd like to get into the conversation at the end of the year of who gets into the playoff, this is a chance for UCF to just make a statement and say, look, we will play anybody anywhere. I don't see the huge disadvantage that UCF is talking about in this situation. If anybody's at a disadvantage, it would be Florida in taking this game. We've always said that the SEC schedule is tough in itself, and so when teams like Florida, teams like the SEC, top-tier teams don't play schools outside of the SEC in tough situations, it's understandable because their schedule's so tough. This is a chance, and I really hope that UCF reconsiders. I would love to see this, and it would actually be a chance for UCF to get on a national stage and let everyone see what they put on the field.
G-Mac, I want to get back to something that you said. I'm going to be in the chair of Danny White here and say, haven't we earned the right? Haven't we earned the right as a top 10 team, not a typical group of 5, but a top 10 team to get a neutral site game? And G-Mac, you mentioned Boise State. They did play a, quote, neutral site game. It wasn't in Athens, and it wasn't in Blacksburg either. So that's the question. Aren't they in that Boise State category of 10 years ago?
No, because 3 years ago they were 0-12. And I've seen people from UCF describe themselves as, oh, we're a top 10 program. No, you're not. You're a top 10 team. And that's great that you're a top 10 team today, but programs are built over the course of history. And when you're just a couple years removed from a team that had goose egg in the win column, you still have a lot to prove. So, yeah, they've been great this year. They were tremendous last year, and they deserve to be applauded for all the accomplishments that we've seen from them over the last 2 seasons. But to sit here and think that they are all of a sudden in the same stratosphere as a Boise State or as a team that's in the group of 5 that's consistently competed like that, I'm not willing to go that far. Great teams, hardly a great program at this point, because great programs have sustainability over a number of years, not just 2.
Yeah, Florida has 3 national championships. And if you're UCF and you're saying we want to be on their level, we want to be in the same conversation as they are, you're not bringing the same resume to the table that Florida is bringing. Again, I have never been a player that has said that playing at home is a huge advantage over playing on the road. But if you're looking for that national recognition, if you're saying we're on their level, then you have a chance to prove it. And if you have to go there to do so, then UCF, that's what you have to do. Again, you're talking about a Florida team with 3 national championships. I think it's like 11 SEC championships. And I really think that Florida's right when they're saying, we're going to come to your place and you give us 2. Again, it's a national game that everyone would pay attention to and give UCF a chance to make a statement.
And Joey, too. I mean, like UCF's talking, well, we need to have a harder schedule. Like, we'll play any. This is a chance to get 3 legitimate blue blood games against a Power 5 opponent that has national respectability, and now you're balking at that opportunity. Who cares where the games are being played? Just play the games, because that will boost your schedule. Who knows? You go to Gainesville, you win, then what's the conversation looking like? So I don't know why they're running from this opportunity when it can benefit them in a lot of ways.
It would have been interesting to see, had they played Florida this year and run the table and won that game, would they be in the college football playoff? It's obviously a hypothetical. We'll never know the answer to that. We'll see what they do moving forward. Danny White, obviously in favor of expansion. So is a head coach of one of the teams in the 4-team college football playoff, Brian Kelly.
I don't have any inside information to share with you. I sure am one that would register a vote on the expanding the playoff. If there's going to be, expansion of any kind, we would prefer that to, include 8. That gives the Power 5s, obviously, they're champions, and then opens up much more opportunities for at-large.
And also expand Notre Dame's margin for error, we should say, if they were to lose a game there. I think we can see where he's going with that. Joey, is expansion inevitable with the CFP?
I unfortunately think it's going to happen. I'm not a fan. I know me and Greg have had this argument before. He wants to expand to like 36 teams. I think that these young men, as we're moving to an era where people don't want to play in bowl games as it is, we're talking about adding games. And I think if you're adding games to these kids' schedule, then we have to have a serious conversation about what they're being compensated, because now we're moving dangerously close to an NFL schedule as far as games are concerned. I don't like the expansion. I like it the way it is. What are we looking for? Why are we adding teams? So I think they've done a really good job of getting the 4 best teams each and every year. So why are we looking to change that?
What I'm trying to figure out is when people make the argument for expansion, why do they always cite coaches that are in favor of expansion? Like, tell me this, okay, if I were Mike Leach, who's proposed a 65-team playoff, which makes a whole lot of sense, or if I'm Brian Kelly, of course I want the playoff to expand, because right now there are incentives built into my contract that if I make the playoff, I get more money. If I'm a coach, of course I want more teams. But what we really need to value are the people that's genuinely in the best interest of college football. Right now, coaches are not in the best interest of college football. Coaches are in the best interest of their program and their teams. So why are we referencing coaches' opinions when talking about potential expansion? Because everyone keeps citing these coaches. Well, they want to expand. Why wouldn't we? I'm not sure that's a great example. They want their team to get in, and whatever it takes, by whatever means necessary, they want expansion to occur so their teams can get more chances and have more opportunities to mess up and still get invited to the dance. So I don't know why we continue to cite coaches when it comes to what's best for what our game requires.
Greg, I'm very disappointed in you. I know that you've been for expansion. I know you came up with your own system for expansion. I thought this was going to be your platform to introduce the Greg McElroy.
The sliding scale. We've done that like
expansion.
6 times. We've done it like 6 times. I'm not trying to.
I'm disappointed,
you know,
Greg.
I like subjectivity. I'm okay if they want to expand it to 5. If they want to expand it, contract it to 3. I'm good with it. I just don't want it to be 8, where it's bona fide 8, no matter what. And then we're going to have 3 SEC teams in an 8-team field, and those teams have played over and over again. Or 3 Big Ten teams. Like, I don't want to have some arbitrary number of 8 where you have 3 teams that might not be worthy with a chance to potentially win a national championship.
If this was word association, Greg, I'd be disappointed in you right now for taking the road you just took.
That was more than one word there, Joey. Get ready for that in the B block, word association. By the way, you'll be shocked to know the SEC likes the current format, the 4-team format, especially Alabama. 5 years in the playoff, 5 years in the playoff. Quarterback Tua Tagovailoa returning to practice on Friday after a surgical procedure for his sprained ankle. Obviously, a good sign to see him up on his feet rather than riding a recreational scooter, G-Mac. But if Tua Tagovailoa is not 100% come national semifinal time, should he start?
Yes. And even if he's as low as 80% or 75%, because right now I haven't seen anything from the Oklahoma defense that makes me think that they're going to be able to rush the passer. So I look at Tua Tagovailoa, and if he's a stationary target, maybe doesn't have the same mobility that he usually has, he still gives you the best chance to be successful because the path of least resistance, at least statistically against Oklahoma, has been through the air. So if you look at the numbers they give up to quarterbacks through the air and passing game, I think that he still gives them the best opportunity to be successful. And also, too, how do we know anything about Tua? All he's doing is standing around in some of these clips. Like he's stationary throwing the football. We don't know anything. How are we going to try to sit and say, oh, he's back, no problem, back at practice.
Period.
No worries, Joey. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no one is 100% at this time of season. Everyone's banged up. If Tua's on 2 legs and 2 feet, then he plays in this game. You talked about the Oklahoma defense. They're not top 100 in defense and total defense and nowhere in defense will we ever talk about this Oklahoma team. So if I'm Tua and I'm having a chance to go against the Oklahoma defense, believe me, I would go out there in 1 leg and a half to get a chance to light up this Oklahoma defense. So he absolutely plays in this game.
Yeah, we'll see if Jalen Hurts plays. He's played in 11 of 13 of the games for Alabama this year, most because of a blowout, 1 out of necessity, and it resulted in an SEC title. Saturday, December 29th on ESPN, it is the College Football Playoff semifinals. Clemson and Notre Dame in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, 4 Eastern. Then it's Bama and OU, the Capital One Orange Bowl. Up next, time to hand in your sneakers at the counter and get your bowling shoes. We'll do a little word association with some of the bowl games we saw over the weekend.
Listen, get out your thesaurus here on Word Association College Football Live.
Ho-hum. All right, I don't know if that's 1 word or 2 words.
I'm going with bedraggled. And yes, I had to dig deep for that one.
I was gobsmacked by the win.
Say it in a British accent.
Good snipped.
Give me a word to describe this segment that we just did.
I already used torture. I already used torture, but I can't.
You already used it. Re-rack it.
Yeah,
Re-rack it.
Yeah, I'll bring torture back.
It's the segment where we learn new words. And get your dictionaries handy because these words could be made up. It's time for word association with G-Mac and Joey Galloway. DXL playing with style. Fresno State running back Ronnie Rivers was doing just that, running through the Sun Devils on Saturday. 212 yards, a couple of TDs in the win over Arizona State in the Las Vegas Bowl. Nice win for the Group of 5, a 12-win season for the Bulldogs. Just 2 years after a 1-11 season, Arizona State finishes 7-6, the same record they had last season. Give me a word for Coach Herm Edwards' first season as Arizona State. What word are you coming up here?
I'm going with everybody, self-included, thought that this was going to be a disaster. Everyone said, well, Herm Edwards, he hasn't coached in college football in 30 years. Why are they hiring Herm Edwards? And all he does is take a group that Vegas expected to win 4 games, beat that win total by 3, and get them going in the right direction. They also relied on a ton of freshmen, so Arizona State in the years to come is going to be better than they were this year. So I think Herm Edwards can give us a collective shush because he not only did well this season, but he did exceptionally well given what the expectations were.
All right, Joey.
Yeah, and I'm going down the same path. I'm going substantiated. He really made Arizona State look good here and made the right move. Because like Greg, now I didn't think it was a bad move, but like Greg, I listened to a lot of people that thought, you know, what in the world is Herm Edwards doing? He had a nice cushy job like you two have, sitting behind a desk just talking about football, and all of a sudden he leaves that and goes and coaches again, has to get back into recruiting, but he substantiated that move with the success they had.
I don't think he had any room left on that whiteboard. All right, let's stay out west here. There was big news at halftime of the New Mexico Bowl. Kayvon Thibodeau, who's the #1 player in the ESPN 300 out of the state of California, announces that he is going to play for Mario Cristobal and the Oregon Ducks. Word association, G-Mac, for the #1 player going to the Ducks.
Trailblazer. And I'm going Trailblazer because this is the first #1 overall player in the ESPN 300 that chose a Pac-12 school since 2009 when Matt Barkley chose USC. Kayvon Thibodeau said, you know what, every big defensive lineman, outside linebacker, they all go play in the Southeast. Occasionally you'll find one that'll go to Michigan or Ohio State. You know what he said? He said, no, you know what, I'm staying at home. I'm staying on the West Coast. And finally, maybe this is going to be the bell cow for the Pac-12 and moving forward, where it's okay. It's okay to stay at home and play on the West Coast and play at a high level. It looks like Oregon is starting to do a lot of things on the recruiting trail, and it's starting to get kind of exciting with what they have building there in Eugene.
I'm going with Cristobal. I'm sure you guys see the play on words there. The future is looking bright at Oregon. I think Coach Cristobal's done a nice job with recruiting. They're top 5 right now. And if they can continue to recruit this way, this program will be back where it was when they had a chance to play for the national championship. They got to replace Justin Herbert, their quarterback, who will be going to the NFL draft. But the future is looking very bright for Oregon.
That was very well done, even with the hyphen. 6 of the top 22 players.
I'm looking forward to looking up what Cristobal means in the dictionary here in a little bit. That's going to be good.
Again, I told you, man, they're made up. 6 of the top 22 players in the state of California are committed to Oregon. So Mario Cristobal doing some good things. 10 a.m. Eastern Time Wednesday, ESPN 2 National Signing Day coverage. I may or may not be a part of that. Cheap plug. Georgia Southern. How about word association for the Eagles? They defeated Eastern Michigan in the Camellia Bowl to finish off a 10-win season a year after going 2-10. Greg McElroy, submit your non-hyphenated word.
I'm actually going to go with psycho because you got to be crazy to think that you can have that kind of a turnaround. I mean, that is pretty remarkable. Now, Georgia Southern, I know it's difficult to defend the triple option, and what they try to do offensively is a beast, but this is what really put the icing on the cake. The body slam, people's elbow of the chair with cement underneath it there in Camellia Bowl. That's pretty impressive stuff. So I would say this whole season has been crazy for Georgia Southern. Happy for their progress and hope it can continue.
I'm going WrestleMania. I love the move. I love the move by the coach. The only thing we need now is he has to up his game. He has to come up off of a table. If they can get some ropes in there off someone's shoulder, like Randy Macho Man Savage used to do. Yeah. Exactly. Come off of something and drop the elbow on the chair, and now we're talking.
I like it.
That's very good. I got a word for you. Sharabundi.
There you go. I like it.
Hit the promo.
Wow.
Hit the promo.
Oh, wow.
College Football Live is brought to you by Amo-Big.
Let's take a look at our Progressive Bowl Challenge Cup. Here are some of the recent winners of the Bowl Challenge Cup. The Big Ten had the best winning percentage in bowl games last year. Other recent winners include the ACC, SEC, and, you guessed it, Conference USA. Time for some Conference Bowl over-unders. The SEC has 11 teams playing in bowl games. Let's set the over-under at 6.5, Greg McElroy.
It's not easy. Let's take a look at the scene, obviously.
Yeah.
But
let's see a lot of words.
It's a lot of words, so good luck gathering all that in a matter of 15 seconds. I'm going to lean towards the over because I'm expecting Alabama to win the national championship. That's 2 wins right there. Then all I got to do is figure out another 5 along the lines of all those. They're heavy favorites in multiple games, so I'm going to take the over for the SEC of 6.5.
I'm going over whether Alabama wins the national championship or not. I think it's arguably the deepest conference in the country this season. And so with this many teams getting 6.5, they'll get there.
FPI says there'll be 9. I like the fact you guys including the national championship in there. All right, the Big Ten, 9 teams in bowl games. We're setting the over-under at 4.5. G-Mac, do your reading here and your due diligence. What do you got?
Once again, good luck really absorbing all this information. I love the 2 teams at the bottom, Penn State and Ohio State. I think both those teams get wins. I'm not really that sold on anyone other than Michigan, though. I'm going to take the under for the Big Ten, and I'm going to say they end up with 4 of those 9 victories.
I'm going over. I think that I like, Greg, I agree with you down at the bottom. I think Ohio State wins for sure. I like Michigan against Florida. I think Purdue, with their pass offense, David Blau, the way he's playing, will give Auburn everything they want. I see the Big Ten getting at least 5 wins out of these games.
FPI says 3, by the way. Big 12, we got 20 seconds. 7 teams in, over under 2.5, G-Mac.
I'm going to take the over, because I'm expecting a couple upsets. I think TCU will win. I think Baylor has a real chance of upsetting Vanderbilt. And the one key upset, Iowa State. Iowa State over Washington State. Great defense for the Clones.
I'm going under. Will Grier not playing for West Virginia is going to hurt them against Syracuse. And as low as that number is, I'm still going under for the Big 12.
All right. Our thanks to John Zoney, the researcher, typed that all up. Carpal tunnel setting in as we speak. See you Tuesday, 4:30 Eastern.